Do you ever step into your backyard, sit down for a moment, and feel like something's missing? Maybe it feels a little plain, or perhaps it just doesn't quite have that touch of peace you've always imagined. I know that feeling, like the garden is waiting for one more little spark of beauty to make it whole. The good news is, you don't need heavy lifting, expensive tools, or a big budget to make that happen. Sometimes, it's the simplest touches that bring the biggest changes. Welcome, my friend, to Golden Year's Lifestyle Hub. This is our little corner of joy where we make gardening easier, brighter, and more fun, without the stress. Here, we believe in outdoor projects that are affordable, simple, and satisfying. No back-breaking chores, no complicated equipment. Just ideas you can actually do, with results that will make your neighbors peek over the fence and say, "How on earth did they do that?" I can't tell you how many times I've seen a plain yard transformed into something magical with just a few simple tricks. A friend of mine added a single project to her backyard, just one, and suddenly it became the favorite gathering spot for her grandkids every Saturday. They didn't see cheap or DIY. They saw a place filled with charm. That's the kind of joy I want for you too. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need to spend a fortune. You don't need to spend days out in the hot sun. You don't even need a big garden. With the right touches, even a little corner of your patio can feel like a designer retreat. Think of it like adding a cozy sweater to your space, one stitch at a time. So, if you've ever wished your outdoor space felt just a little more welcoming, you're in the right place. In today's journey, I'll be sharing outdoor projects that are not only doable, but will leave you smiling every time you step outside. And trust me, you'll be surprised how much joy these small changes can bring. If this sounds like the kind of inspiration you've been waiting for, don't forget to subscribe to Golden Year's Lifestyle Hub. Join our warm community of garden lovers who believe that beauty belongs in every backyard, no matter the budget. Together, we'll create spaces that don't just look good, they feel like home. Let's begin with one of the most transformative, yet wonderfully simple projects, creating a garden pathway. Now, before you start worrying about wheelbarrows and backbreaking work, let me reassure you, this project can be as light and easy as you want it to be. A few stepping stones, some old bricks you might already have, or even a layer of gravel from the hardware store can completely change how your yard feels. You see, pathways aren't just about where your feet go. They're about where your eyes go too. When you lay out a path, it naturally draws your gaze, leading you forward and inviting you to explore. Even in the smallest garden, a pathway turns a plain patch of grass into a gentle journey. Suddenly, your yard isn't just out there. It's a destination. I remember the paths at my grandmother's house. They weren't fancy, just stones tucked into the earth. But as a child, they felt like a magical trail. Each step promised something new, whether it was a cluster of flowers, a hidden bench, or simply the quiet rustle of leaves. That's the power of a path. It takes something ordinary and makes it feel like an adventure. And here's the lovely part. You don't need to spend much. Some folks use mismatched bricks, others pick up stepping stones from Dollar Tree or the local store. One of my neighbors lined their path with seashells collected over the years, and now it's not just a walkway, it's a story. Another friend used simple gravel, and you'd be amazed at how neat and polished her little backyard suddenly looked. Honestly, her neighbors were so impressed, they thought she had hired a landscaper. If you'd like a gentle tip, start small. You don't have to pave the whole garden. Just create a little path from your back door to your favorite chair, or from your patio to your flower bed. You'll notice how it changes the way you move through your space. Slower, more thoughtful, almost like you're strolling through your very own park. Now let's move on to one of my favorite projects for both beauty and practicality, raised planter boxes. These little gems are a gift, especially for those of us who don't want to bend and stoop quite as much as we used to. Instead of kneeling in the dirt, you can tend to your flowers or herbs at a comfortable height. Your back and knees will thank you, and you'll still enjoy all the joy of gardening. A raised planter also gives your garden such a neat, tidy appearance. Everything looks organized, almost like you've brought a touch of the botanical garden right into your own backyard. And they're incredibly versatile. You can fill them with cheerful marigolds, bright petunias, or, if you're like me, a collection of herbs. Imagine stepping outside and snipping fresh basil for your pasta or rosemary for your Sunday roast. It's one of life's simple pleasures, and it's right at your doorstep. I have a dear friend who built just 2 small raised boxes by her patio. Nothing extravagant, just some simple wooden frames. Now, she always has lettuce, parsley, and a few flowers growing right where she can see them. She laughs because she says she saves more money not buying sad-looking herbs from the grocery store than she spent making the planters in the first place. And truthfully, her backyard looks like something out of a magazine now. Another wonderful thing about raised planters is how easy they are to customize. If you only have a little space, a single box will do. If you've got a bigger yard, line a few together and create rows of flowers that look like a ribbon of color. They're also perfect if your soil isn't great, because you get to fill them with healthy, rich soil from the start. So don't think of raised planters as just another garden trend. Think of them as little helpers, lifting your plants and your spirits up where they belong. Simple, practical, and full of charm. Now, let's talk about one of the simplest joys you can add to your backyard, a cozy outdoor seating nook. Sometimes all a garden really needs is a place to sit, pause, and soak in the beauty you've already created. And the best part? You don't need to buy an expensive set or remodel the whole patio. Even an old chair with a fresh coat of paint, a simple bench, or a couple of cushions can turn a forgotten corner into your own little retreat. Picture this, a shaded corner under your favorite tree, or maybe a spot right beside the roses where the air smells sweetest. Place a sturdy bench there, or even just an old wooden chair you've rescued and spruced up. Add a few soft cushions, something cheerful with patterns, or maybe just a calming pastel, and suddenly you've built yourself a peaceful nook. It's the kind of spot where time slows down the moment you sit down. And here's a little secret. This nook isn't just for show. It's the perfect place to read a good book, sip your morning tea, or, if no one's watching, sneak in a quick nap. I've done it myself more than once, and let me tell you, nothing beats dozing off with the birds singing around you. Gardens aren't just for working in. They're for living in, and this little corner will remind you of that every single day. I know a neighbor who placed just one chair under a small pergola she built with her son. Now, every afternoon, she sits there with her journal while her grandkids run around. She says it feels like her own private getaway, just a few steps from the kitchen door. That's the beauty of a seating nook. It's always accessible, always ready, and always inviting you to rest. So if you've been longing for more relaxation in your backyard, start here. A bench, a cushion, a shady corner, and suddenly your garden isn't just a place you visit, it's a place you belong. Now let's add a touch of height to the garden with something that always feels a little magical, a vertical garden wall. You don't need acres of space to enjoy an abundance of blooms. Sometimes, the smartest thing you can do is grow upward instead of outward. A vertical garden can be made from just about anything you have on hand. Hanging baskets, a recycled bookshelf, or even those little Dollar Tree racks that cost just a few dollars. Stack them, hang them, or mount them against a fence, and suddenly your garden has layers of color and life climbing skyward. It's almost like painting with plants, only instead of a canvas, you're using your wall. The real gift of vertical gardening is that it saves floor space. If your yard is small, or maybe you only have a patio or balcony, this trick lets you grow more without crowding the ground. And let's be honest, sometimes kneeling and bending isn't as easy as it used to be. That's why growing at eye level feels like such a treat. You can walk right up, admire your flowers, water them without strain, and enjoy the beauty face to face. I know a friend who used an old wooden ladder for hers. Each rung held a row of potted herbs and bright flowers. It looked so charming. Neighbors kept asking where she bought it. When she told them it was just her retired ladder, they couldn't believe it. Another neighbor used a simple over-the-door shoe rack, slipped little pots into each pocket, and turned her blank fence into a vertical meadow. Now she has marigolds, petunias, and even strawberries tumbling out at eye level. So, if you've ever wished for more flowers but felt limited by space, this project might just be your answer. It's practical, it's creative, and it's a wonderful way to bring joy back into the little corners of your yard. And the best part, it doesn't ask too much of your back or knees. Just gentle tending, right where you can reach with ease. Now let's bring a little glow into the evenings with something that feels almost magical, solar light pathways. There's just something about stepping outside at dusk and seeing your garden gently lit, like it's greeting you with open arms. And the beauty of solar lights is that they're affordable, easy to install, and they work all on their own. No wires, no fuss. Imagine lining a pathway with these little lights. As the sun goes down, one by one they begin to glow, marking each step with a soft shimmer. It's not just pretty. It feels like your garden is welcoming you home each night. I remember visiting a friend who had them along her driveway, and honestly, it felt like walking into a storybook scene. Her grandkids called it Grandma's Fairy Trail, and I couldn't help but smile. Of course, there's more than beauty here. Solar pathway lights also add a layer of safety. They guide your steps, helping you avoid trips or stumbles, especially in areas where shadows fall a little heavier. For many of us, that peace of mind is just as valuable as the charm they bring. And let me reassure you, setting them up is as easy as pushing them into the soil. No cords, no digging, no electrical bills. They soak up the sunshine during the day and return it to you at night. You can find them at garden centers, hardware stores, and yes, even Dollar Tree. A small investment that makes a big difference. So, whether you're strolling out to water your plants in the evening or simply glancing out your window after dinner, solar lights transform those moments. Your garden becomes more than a patch of land. It becomes a glowing, welcoming space, no matter the hour. Now, let's create a little corner of the garden that's not just for us, but for the creatures who share it with us. A bird bath and feeder spot. It doesn't take much space, just a simple dish of water and maybe a hanging feeder nearby. But oh, the life it brings to your backyard. Suddenly, your garden isn't only about flowers and plants. It becomes a gathering place, a small sanctuary for nature. Place a shallow bird bath in a sunny but sheltered spot, maybe near a shrub or under a tree branch where the birds feel safe. Add a feeder close by, and you'll be amazed at how quickly your feathered neighbors show up. Sparrows, finches, even the occasional hummingbird if you add a nectar feeder. Each visit feels like a gift, a reminder that the garden is full of life beyond what we plant. I can't help but get a little nostalgic here. Watching the birds splash in the bath always takes me back to those summer mornings at my grandmother's garden. The air would be filled with song, the sound of wings fluttering through water, and it felt as though the whole world was awake and alive. There's something so simple and yet so rich about those moments. They stay with you. And here's the encouragement I want to share. Creating a bird-friendly corner doesn't just help wildlife. It brings joy to your everyday. Imagine sitting in your cozy nook with a cup of tea, watching bright little visitors hopping around, chirping and splashing. It's like having nature's concert right in your own yard. And the best part? It requires almost no effort once it's set up. Refill the water, sprinkle some seed, and let the magic unfold. A friend of mine calls her feeder corner her daily show. Every morning she sits outside, not with the TV on, but with the birds instead. She says it's better for her heart and her mood, and I couldn't agree more. These small interactions remind us that gardens are more than plants. They're living, breathing places of connection. Now let's give our gardens a little lift with something both useful and beautiful, a simple DIY trellis. You'd be surprised at how much charm a few wooden stakes or a recycled frame can bring once you give your plants a place to climb. A trellis is more than just a support. It's an invitation for nature to rise up and show off. Think of sweet peas winding their way upward, filling the air with fragrance. Or clematis, bursting into blooms that seem to float in the air. Even the humble tomato plant loves the steady hand of a trellis, turning what might be a sprawl on the ground into a tidy, fruitful display. It's a little structure that changes the whole picture of your garden, adding height, texture, and just a touch of elegance. And here's a gentle tip I've learned over the years. It's amazing how much beauty a few wooden stakes can bring when they invite vines to dance upward. You don't need a fancy design, just something sturdy enough to guide the plants along. I know someone who used an old wooden ladder leaned against her shed, and now it's covered in morning glories, looking like a piece of living artwork. Another friend tied together some bamboo poles, and by midsummer, her trellis looked like a tower of green and purple blossoms. The best part? A trellis doesn't take up much room, but it gives back so much. It helps your plants breathe, keeps fruit off the ground, and draws the eye upward, making even a small garden feel taller and more spacious. So, whether you're growing veggies, flowers, or a little of both, consider adding a trellis or two. It's a simple project that will make you smile every time you see your plants climbing higher, as if they're reaching for the sun. Now let's add a touch of charm and texture with something that requires almost no effort at all, a decorative pebble or rock area. Sometimes, it's not more plants we need, but a bit of contrast to make the plants we already have shine. A scattering of smooth white pebbles around a flower bed, or a winding line of colorful stones as edging, can transform a space in the simplest way. You might choose polished river rocks for a soft, natural look, or bright glass pebbles for a little sparkle when the sun hits them. Some folks even mix different sizes, larger stones in the center with finer gravel around the edges, to create a layered effect. The best part? These accents never fade, never wilt, and never complain about the weather. And here's a little gentle humor for you. No watering needed. These plants stay put no matter the season. Once they're down, they're happy to sit quietly and look good all year round. I've seen neighbors use pebbles to create little dry rivers that seem to flow through their garden, and another friend arranged hers into a simple circle around a bird bath. Both looked like they belonged in a magazine, but truth be told, the materials came from the dollar store and a few afternoon walks. Decorative rocks also make for wonderful edging. Imagine a neat border of stones lining your flower beds. It keeps the soil tidy, defines your spaces, and gives your garden that polished look without the constant upkeep. And if bending is a challenge, this is a project you can do a little at a time. Place a few stones today, a few more tomorrow, and before long, you've created a feature that will last for years. So if you're looking for a project that's low maintenance but high impact, pebbles and stones are your answer. They may be small, but they add texture, structure, and a timeless beauty that balances all the green around them. Now let's turn the garden into not just a place to admire, but a place to linger, with a little outdoor dining or tea table. You don't need a sprawling patio or a dozen chairs. Even a small foldable table with 2 chairs can work wonders. Place it in a sunny corner or under the shade of a tree, and suddenly your yard feels less like a patch of grass and more like a personal retreat. There's something delightful about sitting outside with a simple meal or just a cup of tea. Even a quick breakfast feels like an event when the breeze is gentle, the birds are singing, and the flowers are all around you. One of my neighbors swears by her garden table. She says her morning toast tastes better just because she eats it outdoors. And I'll admit, I agree. Even a cup of morning tea feels special when enjoyed outside, especially when the world is just waking up. The beauty of this project is how little it takes. A foldable bistro set, or even an old card table with a cloth draped over it, can create that cafe feeling right at home. Add a vase with fresh garden flowers, and you've built yourself a spot that rivals any fancy restaurant patio. I know a friend who simply painted her old metal chairs, added some cushions, and tucked them by her rose bushes. Now, every Sunday afternoon, she and her husband sit there with lemonade, calling it their mini vacation. And for those who worry about space, don't. Even the smallest balcony or patio corner can hold a little table and chairs. What matters isn't the size of the setup, but the joy it brings. These little retreats remind us to slow down, savor the air, and enjoy the beauty we've worked so hard to grow. Now here's a project that always tugs at the heartstrings: repurposed decor accents. There's something so satisfying about giving old items a second life in the garden. Instead of throwing them out, you let them tell a new story outdoors, where they bring charm, character, and often a smile. Take an old ladder, for example. Lean it against a fence or shed, and suddenly it becomes a tiered shelf for potted herbs or trailing flowers. I once saw one draped in ivy and morning glories. It looked like nature had climbed right up to say hello. Or maybe you have a wheelbarrow that's seen better days. With just a little soil, it turns into a rolling planter, overflowing with blooms. Even mason jars, once tucked in a cupboard, can hang on a tree branch or sit along a pathway as lanterns. With a tea light inside, they glow like little fireflies, guiding your steps through the evening. And here's the nostalgic part. It gives old treasures a second life, just like we've learned to do with many things in our homes. I remember my grandfather's rusty watering can, which my mother planted with geraniums. It sat proudly by the porch, and every time I walked past it, I felt a connection, not just to the flowers, but to the memories it carried. Those little touches remind us that gardens aren't only about plants. They're about stories, love, and the lives lived around them. Repurposing decor also brings out creativity. Every old chair, basket, or tin has potential. A chipped teapot can cradle succulents, a wooden crate can hold a row of marigolds, and even an old pair of boots can bloom with petunias. I know someone who planted pansies in her father's worn-out work boots, and now they sit on her porch, turning heads and sparking conversations. So, before you toss something aside, take a moment to ask, could this be part of the garden's charm? Chances are, with a little imagination, it can. Before we wrap up, let me share a few little bonus touches, those small details that often make the biggest difference in how your garden feels. First, think about sound. Adding a simple wind chime can bring such a peaceful melody to your space. When the breeze stirs, it's like your garden is humming softly, reminding you to slow down and breathe. I still remember my mother's old wind chime. Every summer afternoon, it filled the air with a gentle tinkling, almost like laughter drifting across the yard. Second, don't be afraid of a splash of color. Painting a garden fence a bright, cheerful shade, maybe sunny yellow, calming blue, or even a soft green, can lift the whole space instantly. A neighbor of mine painted her plain wooden fence turquoise, and now her roses pop against it like artwork on display. She says it makes her garden feel like a holiday spot every time she steps outside. And here's a practical one. Use large pots for easier maintenance. Bigger pots hold moisture longer, which means less watering and less worry in the summer heat. They also give your plants more room to grow and thrive. Plus, grouped together, they create a lush, layered look that feels welcoming and full. Remember, my friend, gardens don't always need grand changes. Often, it's the little touches that make the biggest difference. A soft sound, a splash of color, a sturdy pot. It's these gentle details that turn a yard into a haven. Let's take a gentle moment to gather everything we've explored together today, because I know it's easy for little details to slip away once the video ends. Think first about the ways we shaped the space itself. Garden pathways to guide your steps, raised planters to make tending easier, a cozy seating nook for rest, a vertical wall to lift blooms to eye level, and solar lights to brighten the evenings. Then, think about the touches that invite life and beauty. A bird bath and feeder corner to welcome songbirds, a trellis to help flowers and vegetables climb skyward, a pebble garden for texture and charm, a small tea table for quiet moments, and repurposed decor that gives old treasures a new story. That's 10 little projects, each simple on its own, but together they create a backyard that feels like a retreat. And here's my gentle reassurance. Even if you only try 2 or 3, your backyard will already feel more welcoming, more alive, and more yours. These projects aren't about spending more. They're about creating joy, peace, and beauty in your own backyard. Each little idea is like a brushstroke on a canvas, turning the ordinary into something special. And the truth is, it's the smallest changes that often bring the biggest smiles. It reminds me of the way we used to decorate our homes years ago, adding small touches, a vase here, a photo there, little details that made the house feel warm and loved. The garden deserves that same care. Simple things that made us smile, then still have the power to brighten our days now. If this video gave you a spark of inspiration, please subscribe to Golden Years Lifestyle Hub and share it with a friend who loves gardening. Together, we'll keep making our golden years brighter, one project at a time. Take care, enjoy your backyard, and remember, every little project you try today is a gift of beauty for tomorrow. Herb.